Welcome back to the Kaijusaurus Podcast. This is our first episode of 2017.
Happy New Year, Steven.
Happy New Year to you too, Ross.
Happy New Year, listeners.
Yes.
Hope it's better.
Well, you know,
It's not.
you would say
It won't be.
You could say, you know, surely it can't be worse, but
It will.
let's not. Let's not tempt fate. Today's episode, we are reviewing 1989's Godzilla vs. Biollante, which we have just watched. But first, we just do a wee bit of catch up.
A wee bit of catch-up. It's been a little while, but we're ready to face the year. The challenges, the trials, the tribulations, the highs and lows will all be in this together.
How was your Christmas and New Year, Ross?
I had a lovely Christmas and New Year. It was just me and my mum for Christmas. We had a lovely time, had a nice New Year. I was on a brief weekend in Amsterdam in the Netherlands over the weekend, and I saw a very good film.
Oh yeah,
With you.
Ross and I met up last week when we were supposed to record this episode, but
we really couldn't be asked.
yeah, I basically texted him when he was on his way saying I can't be fucking bothered.
Yeah,
I just kind of want to chill out and not have to do anything.
Yeah.
And
I was like, great.
yeah, exactly. You were more than up for that. And I suggested watching Shin Godzilla, and Ross was more than up for that. And
I was.
how did you find Shin
I
Godzilla?
really enjoyed it.
It's so good.
It's brilliant. Now, I know people won't have all seen it yet.
Yeah.
So we're probably not going to spend a lot of time talking about it.
Yeah.
Save it for maybe when we actually get there.
Yeah.
Technically, we've cheated. Technically, the podcast is inundated, not inundated, invalidated. So this is we're done. I quit.
All right, cool.
No, man, it was so good, and we are going to go see it again.
Yes,
properly.
because Shin Godzilla is receiving its European premiere at the Glasgow Film Theatre on the 24th.
Is it real? Is it the European premiere?
European
Is it really
premiere, yeah.
first time anywar in our bit, in
Yeah.
our zone,
Yeah, man.
our quadrant?
Yep.
Proud.
Glasgow
Glad.
does it again.
I belong to Glasgow, dear old Glasgow town.
24th of February at 9 o'clock at the Glasgow Film Theatre, part of this year's Fright Fest festival, which is also part of the Glasgow Film Festival. Because I was kind of keeping my eyes out on the Glasgow Film Festival to see if they would take it, but I completely forgot about Fright Fest, and they announced theirs last week, and lo and behold, they're showing Shin Godzilla.
That's so good. So we're going with your dad, I'm told.
Yes, my dad's super keen to
Papa
see it
Sloss.
as well. So
Peace loss.
So yeah, hopefully next month or the next month after that episode, we'll have a report of that for you, unless it sells out.
Now, before we start, it was completely rude of me. How was your Christmas and New Year, Steve?
Oh no, it's fine. I wasn't going to bring it up, but now it's fine. Mine was okay. I always get like ill with the cold and flu around Christmas time, and this year was no exception. Except I got it between Christmas and New Year this year, and
Is that better? Was that better for you?
not really, because I got mega stressed and had to get sent home from work.
Oh man.
And it was awful. But you know what? I'm okay now.
We made it.
Except I'm now experiencing a separate new visit from the flu.
Oh, fair, yeah.
Which is
separate.
which is shit. But you
It
know,
is shit.
But no, my Christmas.
That's why I mean we are behind this plastic screen partition so that I don't get your filthy fucking germs.
my Christmas was good. It was nice and quiet. Nice and
Yeah,
quiet.
I had a nice quiet Christmas as well.
And so was my New Year actually. But yeah.
Mine wasn't.
So you Godzilla versus Biollante.
I am ready. Let's do this. Come with us.
So, as I mentioned in last month's episode, this is a direct sequel to The Return of Godzilla. And we've had direct sequels before, like, for example, Terror of Mechagodzilla to Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, but none that I would argue to the extent of this.
Yeah, no, this was like it starts literally instantly after.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Whereas all the others almost take place like just in a realm where a sort of shared universe or like continue on the world of previous attacks.
Vague continuity, yeah.
Now, before we get into plot and stuff, the bare basics. This film came out, 1989?
In 89.
And it's the second of the 80s films.
Second and last of the 80s.
And it's the second of the Heisei?
Heisei, there we go, Heisei.
Heisei period.
Nice.
Nice, covered it. Who directed it?
Kazuki Omori.
Who wrote it?
Well, this film was actually the product of a story contest again.
Well, right.
And the winning entry was from a dentist
Oh, really?
who wrote Godzilla vs. Biollante, and this.
Just not like a dentist that was involved in the production company itself. Just
Well,
was
he
it
had
random.
He had previously written an Ultraman episode, 1971, which also featured a plant monster. So
Fucking drying out the well.
So yeah,
Trick Bonnie.
there was a lot of ideas bandied around for Godzilla 2, as it was called in pre-production. Stuff like Godzilla goes up against a supercomputer, which all sounds mental. And
Tronzilla.
Yeah, oh, that'd be so good.
That would be actually really good.
But yeah, so we ended up with Godzilla vs. Biollante. Akira Ifukube is still not back on the music, but there's a lot of familiar motifs that are brought back here. Tomoyuki Tanaka is producing as always up until 95, and this is the second of the Heisei series.
Any other sort of... Why only 2 films in this decade? Just...
Well, as you know,
they feel more expensive and like kind of well focused.
Yeah,
so I guess
the series was already revived halfway through the 90s, so there's half of the decade gone. The 80s, sorry, there's half of the decade gone already.
Yeah.
And Return of Godzilla was a big success, but not as much internationally. So Biollante became a harder film to sort of get going again, and it took a couple of years, and thus the 4-year gap between movies. That's simplifying it entirely, but that's the gist of it.
I mean, that makes sense.
So Godzilla vs. Biollante initially set immediately after the events of the Return of Godzilla. Scientists are retrieving Godzilla cells from the wreckage of Shinjuku when some baddies with guns steal them.
Some British.
Oh, okay, we got ourselves a Godzilla cell.
Great.
There's a lot of hokey English.
There is, yeah. I
Movie,
mean, based on what you were saying about the last one not doing so well internationally, would you say that there's an element of trying to address that, because a lot of this film is in English?
Yeah, I would
say
say
there's a lot more
so.
English-speaking roles.
I would say it's that.
The scenes are conducted in English.
I would say it's that combined with just larger influence from Hollywood. Because
Yeah.
director Kazuki Omori was really into his Hollywood movies.
Yeah. Was he a bit younger? Or?
Like his but like his action movies, and like was really paying attention to what movies were big in America at the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean,
the influence
we're
is there.
1989 now. Like the influence of this movie on other movies, or other movies on these Godzilla films now.
Yeah.
That, you can obviously argue in turn were influenced or contained a little bit of influence from earlier Godzilla movies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're in the post Die Hard Godzilla series.
Oh
now.
yeah. No,
You know what I
that's
mean?
because that was my big question I had to myself was, we're in 1989. Like, what other movies are out at this time? When did Treehouse? When did Barbershop of Horror?
That was Shop of Horrors.
We had this problem, like, for our entire friendship. I call it the
I know.
Treehouse of Horror all the time.
You get like 90% of film titles wrong.
Well, the listeners are fully aware of my faults, Stephen.
Earlier, I know you were joking when you said this, but it still frustrated me. Earlier, when I asked you before we started recording, have you seen The Witch? And you went, "Oh, the Vivitch."
The Vivitch.
And I was like, you know what I fucking mean. Little Shop of Horrors came out in '86, and Tomoyuki Tanaka, the producer, explicitly stated,
This writer saw it and went, "Fuck, this is my time. I'm bringing this back."
I wrote that fucking Ultraman plant episode.
Yes.
Tomoyuki Tanaka has
There's a
said
market
that
for
like
this.
Biollante is explicitly not a rip-off or influenced by Audrey 2.
Okay.
But I don't believe that. That is not, I do not believe that
I mean,
one bit.
It's
And that's not to this film's detriment.
it's just
Because,
plant monsters are in.
If you're going to be influenced by things, be influenced by the best.
Yeah, exactly.
But so yeah. Anyway, should we do a plot synopsis? Because I started it, but then we got
Yeah, well, let's do a pretty brief one. It's pretty succinct, actually. We can do it.
Godzilla cells get stolen by baddies and they then get stolen by another baddie who
works for
the country of Saradian in the Middle East.
not Sardinia.
Not Saradian.
All right.
It's not fish. Like Sardinia.
Sardinia.
That country is just packed in.
Get you in.
And in Saradian, Dr. Shiragami, a Japanese scientist, is working with his daughter Erika, so they're splicing plant cells, and they've just had Godzilla cells delivered to their institute for working with.
Great.
But the institute is blowing up, Erika dies, and Shiragami goes a bit...
reclusey.
He goes a bit like Dr. Mifune from Terror of Mechagodzilla, but with less Einstein-looking hair.
He distinguished. He looks kind of hot for his kind of sad old scientist thing.
He's got a few looks in this movie. Yeah,
his robe.
He's got an acute dress sense.
He does.
Flash forward to 5 years later. We're in '89 now, and Shiragami has agreed to work on a program that is aiming to create anti-nuclear bacteria to ward off Godzilla should he return. The problem is the representatives, some shady representatives of a company called Biollante in America, are holding Japan essentially to ransom by placing explosives around Mount Mihara, where Godzilla was imprisoned in Return of Godzilla, and threatening to explode them and release him if the Godzilla cells and the anti-nuclear bacteria. This film throws a lot at you in its first 40 minutes.
It does. It's like, jam-packed.
If the anti-nuclear bacteria is not turned over to them, what ensues is espionage and chases and car chases and gunfire and Godzilla and plant monsters and giant
corporate
roses,
espionage,
corporate espionage, Colonel Gondo,
national espionage,
fucking giant rose monsters in the lake.
Seal.
Kiss from a Rose. Seal shows up and sings over the end credits. Ross, I'm happy to just take it from there.
Yeah, let's just dive in.
Fire into discussion. What did you think of this movie?
I really, really like this one as well. I just found this really just compelling to watch. Now that we're deep in the 80s, there is just a compelling, like, hooky 80-ness to this film that is just really enjoyable. As viewers will well know, it has all of my favourite things from Godzilla movies. It has big cast of characters, sort of a bit more detailed, kind of interesting characters in terms of like costumes, and that's all you need for to get me going is cool costumes, cool little character traits. It has corporate espionage. It has a very long and convoluted human plot, and Godzilla doesn't show up for like 40 minutes or whatever. So lots of human interest stuff, which makes me very happy. Shootouts, and what else does it? And
it has a lot.
Yeah, it has a lot. It really does.
It has freaking child psychics.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah.
Which we completely forgot to mention.
Oh yeah. Miki
Seguza, who will return in every movie until 1995.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, great! I really liked her.
She is recurring for this series of movies.
No, great. Well, I thoroughly just enjoyed this movie. I just found it so compelling. Fictional nations, always good sign in a Godzilla film where we go to a fictional country. But yeah, no, I just really liked the sort of sci-fi political thriller elements of this film. Some really like memorable characters like Captain Gondo,
Gondo's so good.
Sort of clean-shaven, fresh-faced Major.
Yeah.
And even your sort of two classic Godzilla, scientist and girlfriend characters are really engaging. The older scientist, what's his name?
Shiragami, who's sort of on the...
Him with a dead daughter, eh?
Yeah, I can. Like, there's
Dr. Rosenstein.
There's a fun history in the Godzilla movies of, morally questionable scientists, and Shiragami's right there in with them.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's a nice tradition of these terrible scientists are morally questionable.
This film's frustrating for me a bit though, because I think the first 45 minutes or so are absolutely thrilling.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it does not let up for 1 second, and it's just mental for its first act basically. Then, ironically enough, I think the film loses so much momentum when Godzilla shows up.
Fair. I'm inclined to agree with you
because there's a period of maybe about 30-40 minutes in the middle of the movie where it's almost just all military efforts against Godzilla. It's a Super X2 a few times. It's Mesa tanks. It's Colonel Gondo's operation in the towers, and it's not exciting to me. Like it's technically impressive. Like the special effects work is brilliant. This is the first film with special effects by a man called Koichi Kawakita.
Oh, yeah.
Who's been behind the scenes for decades.
One of the best looking Godzilla films by far.
Yeah.
Like, some fantastic shots, some brilliant effects work. I think the effects work has just been amazing in this one. The last one too, but this one especially.
It's incredible. The effects work is brilliant, but it's clearly the work of a new, not a newcomer, because he's been behind the scenes since King Kong vs. Godzilla, but someone who is newly taken the reins like head of the special effects. But it's technically impressive, but it's not entertaining when we get solidly about, I don't know, maybe 30-35 minutes of just attacks on Godzilla.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
Because I think, for example, Biollante first appears in Lake as a giant sort of towering monstrous rose, and it's more disturbing than it sounds, because I just find that Biollante a bit
really uncomfortable and weird, and
scary, and creepy,
and body horror, plant horror.
When Godzilla and that form of Biollante square off in the lake, it starts off with Biollante extending its tendrils and vines and wrapping itself around Godzilla, but then it doesn't really take off much from there. It's a bit stiff. Godzilla fires his atomic breath a lot. Biollante hisses and spits and vines a lot, and it's nothing really happens.
We lose for a movie that we spent so much time in, like shootouts, spying, chasing, stealing of documents or stealing of cells and passing on. All that stuff is thrilling. And the odd thing about that, I think you're actually right. I think I'm inclined to agree with you. I really enjoyed watching it, but I would say, once Godzilla shows up, I was a little bit less,
which is absolutely not how it should be.
Yeah, well, that's right.
If anything,
you want that balance.
The film should have kicked up when
Godzilla shows up.
I don't know if it could kick up even more than it had by that point.
I don't know how you would.
Because the first 40 minutes are absolutely fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And there's so many. It's a very funny movie, and I think a lot of that is intentional. Gondo is hilarious.
Yeah. No, Gondo's definitely one of my favorite characters in this whole franchise so far. He's just immensely likable and realistic and.
I find characters who are really fed up in their situation really endearing. Gondo reminds me kind of a lot of
you.
Yeah, exactly. I see a lot of myself in Colonel Gondo. I see a lot of Kurt Russell's character from Big Trouble in Little China in Gondo, in that he's really brave and bold and brash and really up for getting into hijinks and scrapes, but maybe he's not entirely effective.
Yeah, totally. The Major as well, the little fresh-faced Major.
Yeah.
That doesn't do too much apart from but he's just played with this real, not naivety, but this real, sense of, what's the word? A real moral character.
Yeah, it's a very youthful confidence.
Yeah, and he does really successfully kind of organise his battle plan. It doesn't all go according to plan versus Godzilla, but it's satisfying to sit and watch him eke out his plan, and you really do see the details of his Godzilla plan and see it be put into action. And
there's so many things I enjoy about this movie. I think the score is brilliant.
Really
the
good,
music is extraordinary.
Particularly that first big 80s chase song.
Biowars, where it has some of Akira Ifukube's Godzilla theme spliced in.
Yeah,
which he was not happy about. Because his condition was, you can use my music, but don't remix it with anything.
Fair.
But
it's good.
But they did. So he came back to
Times have changed, Akira.
He comes back to score the next movie.
Oh, that's fine.
Because his daughter said to him, "Dad, they're going to use your themes anyway. You might as well do it."
He's right. Or she's right.
She's right. But yeah, and I love that the movie opens with the different G alert levels.
Yeah.
There's 4 levels of G alert, and as the story progresses, the alerts flash up on the screen, all 4 stages. That's really interesting, and I really like the sort of the 3D animated battle schematics of how they're gonna attempt to engage Godzilla.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It's, the closest thing is maybe that similar sequence out of what's it called? Empire Jail. Escape from New York.
Escape from New York. Yeah. Empire Jail.
I was thinking Empire State Building and prison.
Escape from New York.
So Escape from New York.
Are we just comparing this movie in terms of Kurt Russell films?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I did say last episode that Return of Godzilla to me is like the Thing, and this is like Big Trouble in Little China. But you've not seen that, have you?
No, I haven't seen Big Trouble in Little China.
To see that again for the first time.
I bet you're jealous. Well, going back very briefly to what you were saying about perhaps this loss of focus once Godzilla shows up. The second Godzilla is dealt with, the movie ramps up again because there's immediately an assassination and a car chase.
Exactly. Well, I wrote that in my notes. Once Godzilla is finished battling Biollante's second form, which is this huge, monstrous crocodilian plant thing, yeah, and Godzilla just walks away from the battle because the anti-nuclear bacteria is taking effect and is draining him. So he walks away and collapses. We get our traditional sort of 60s-esque, all the characters gather on like the shore, the hill or the shore, and like bid farewell to Godzilla. But this traditional farewell scene is interrupted by a character getting assassinated. Dr. Shirogami is killed by the son of a bitch, it's that Saradian agent again. The Saradian agent shows up at the end and fucking assassinates Shirogami, and that instantly amps up the film again. And there's a car chase, and then there's a fist fight in the mud, and
you really no, absolutely. So starting at the beginning, where we start with this computer, and I think for some reason I know we've seen computers in Godzilla films before, but for some reason I was like really pleased that we were getting a shot of a computer in a Godzilla film. It was exciting.
Because it suddenly feels super modern.
Yeah, it felt very 80s, right in line with everything else that's coming out, very sci-fi. I like that little tumble into sci-fi, into kind of like softish sci-fi
because
from the last one.
Like, the Return of Godzilla was very grounded as far as a Godzilla movie can be. Whereas, they're more open to exploring more of the sci-fi and fantasy aspects this time and reintroducing it to the rebooted series. Yeah. Which, I'm happy with.
So, I was really game. The second that we start in, right from essentially the last film, we're in the actual wreckage of the city where Godzilla has tread. Scientists are out there immediately scraping for DNA, and the cell, the sort of MacGuffin cells are found. And we have this scuffle with some sort of weird British paramilitary organisation. We never really find out who they are. They show up, murder the nearby scientists, and escape, and they're then murdered by the Saradian agent. Who looks cool as shit. But, just the second that starts...
Kiss you guys.
The second that starts, I was really just loving it. It was a big surprise. I had no idea where we were going there. And, just political conspiracy, thriller, espionage, all these things.
And it's immediately a big tonal shift from the previous film.
Exactly.
And the film whose events were still sort of in at that point.
It expands the world almost. It's asking, this attack has happened. Other countries, other nations are involved, and mostly we spend it with sort of fictional Saradia. It doesn't really, have a lot of an allegory there. Also, Saradia is really cool. It's kind of cool to just see Godzilla's take on a Middle Eastern fictional nation. Pretty cool.
I'm always up for like an international scope on these movies.
On events. But then as we're introduced to the scientist and his daughter and their sort of things on plants, and then we jump into 5 years later, giving us a chance to see, like, I always love how Godzilla has affected the world, and that starts with the Godzilla, the G alerts, but there's actually so many great little details about what Godzilla's done to the world,
like
the city.
Like the Godzilla Memorial Lounge.
The Godzilla Memorial Lounge, where our two scientists sort of have like dinner lunch. But the best thing about that is there's a Godzilla paw print, ripped through the ceiling that they've preserved and glassed up, so it's now a functioning window, and it's just very trendy.
So
it's very
cool.
It's a signature thing that this building has. Great, such a great little detail like that, and again, some of the set work is really nice. The sort of lab where the rose flowery stuff is happening.
I think possibly though, there's maybe a little bit too much happening in this movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a mess. It's all over the place.
Like the introduction of ESP and psychokinesis.
That could have been enough.
It really throws you. Like, for what is still a relatively sort of grounded world in this rebooted Godzilla series, just suddenly 5 years later, here's Miki.
We pioneered fucking
ESP.
Yeah. What I do like though is at least they ground it a little bit, and that we spend a lot of time at this child laboratory where they clearly are offering daycare for we'll run ESP experiments on your children.
Although that's one, I think I said to you during the movie, that's one of my favourite scenes in the whole franchise.
Oh yeah.
Maybe when Miki Sagusa and Asuka are going up to see the kids, and Miki says, "Okay, show her what you all dreamed of," and they all hold up pictures of Godzilla, and then Ifukube theme kicks in, and that is
fantastic.
So good.
Yeah, again, so many great moments. Yeah. The reveal, little almost tongue-in-cheek moments as well, like the reveal that the two American or American allied spies in their truck are spying on the scientist Maki, and the flower science guys. And they in turn
then it pulls back further. And
they're in turn being spied on by the Saradian agent. So it's like there's like 3 or 4 different factions. There's also the corporation, the American company. There's 2 different MacGuffins happening at once: the cells and the anti-nuclear virus. You know, there's 2 different things.
And then there's the whole possibility that Shirogami's deceased daughter Erika, her soul is inside Rose's. Miki Sagusa is trying to communicate with the Roses in order to reach Erika's departed soul, and Shirogami splices Rose human Erika's DNA with Godzilla DNA and inadvertently creates Biollante, which, you know, is a fun 60s throwback style of monster, you know, genetic mutation has caused this.
But it's much more rooted in that 80s, like, gene split. It's like 80s buzzwords. I've written literally in all capital letters of my notes: computers, cells, ! And science, underlined. It's gene splicing. Whoa.
Now, Shirogami takes such a fucking high moral stance, because there's one point where he's just conducting experiments on water, I guess, in the lake Biolante's in, and these reporters say, you know, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And he says, you reporters are all the same. You think science is terrible, and you don't think about the good it does. It's like,
you created a plant monster because you missed your daughter.
You've got a fucking cheek, pal.
I know.
It's like, and like literally after he says that, Biollante rips away half the pier.
Yeah.
It's like literally would have been dead.
Well, saying that, Biollante only kills the one guy, right?
Biollante
kills soldiers.
Kills one of the Biomajor, one of the American allies. The other guy escapes. But I guess so.
So misunderstood beast.
Well, Biollante is sort of this big weird, sad flower.
It's almost my favorite thing is when you have in Godzilla, like, the B plot or the antagonist is almost like completely unrelated to Godzilla. Like, I mean, yes, it came from Godzilla cells, but ultimately, it's just this weird extra thing that happens. Now, let's see what else. But the body horror, the kind of plant horror of Biollante is really cool. You know, the scientist talks about, like, this the politicization of science, worries about being used almost as a tool. I mean, he did make this horrible creature.
I mean, it all comes back to that, doesn't it?
But he does sort of clearly is uncomfortable with his discoveries, with his research, with the scientist being used for political or warfare applications, which is, you know, an anxiety that comes up in a lot of Godzilla films. Like,
exactly.
But he made a fucking horrible rose monster.
Yeah, and it's like, I get that you were just a soul whose intentions are good, but Lord, you have been misunderstood. Actually, it has been misunderstood because he made a fucking plant monster.
Exactly. And so, quite rightly,
I feel like that kind of outdoes any good intentions.
Exactly. It's hard
because this is just a philosophy. A philosopher. This is just a viewpoint I have about life in general, but it applies to this movie and this character. Like, I don't give a shit what your intentions were. It's
what you did.
It's the consequences and the outcome that matters. And it's like, oh, it's cool, you made a giant fucking half Godzilla plant monster that's potentially more destructive than Godzilla himself. But
Yeah, because it's immortal. Because you were trying to make it immortal.
But you didn't mean to.
And you missed your daughter.
So
fair. Who died because of the experiments, the dangerous experiments that you were doing.
We're going to let you off with a warning.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you'll be fine.
You just wrap his knuckles.
No, I mean, when he gets assassinated at the end, I was like, fair.
Yeah, totally.
Fair, like, absolutely, take him out.
The film closes out with his body on a military stretcher in a little tent. And I think I just said to you, I mean, he had it coming.
Yeah, no, totally.
He did have it coming, and
it was good of him that he decides at the end to deny his research being used for any application. But no,
like,
good, kill him.
It's like
so you know, so
it's a bit fucking late.
I know
to take. Well, he's been taking the moral high ground the whole movie, but finally he says, "No, my research will not be used." And it's like, oh well, it's too fucking late, isn't it? Because the entire events of this movie are because of you.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I don't find Shinigami sympathetic at all.
No,
because like,
but I like the character.
He is quite like Dr. Mifune from Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
You know, he has it's a father-daughter relationship and he loses his daughter, but he's a total dick about it.
Yeah,
it's like I get that like losing a loved one does make you a dick for a while, right?
Aye,
but he didn't need to go make a fucking genetically spliced plant monster.
With our DNA.
Because...
Weirdo.
Because, yeah, you fucking creep.
What are you going to do with it? What was the plan? What was he going to do? But... Well, that brings us perfectly to the first meeting of Godzilla and Biollante.
Yes.
Now, the Godzilla costume, I don't know, is it the same costume as one that's been used before?
It's not the same costume,
It's not, but it looks kind of similar to earlier designs.
It's vaguely...
It's the chubby, thick, jowly Godzilla.
It's vaguely...
It looks like a panther.
Well, yeah, it's vaguely similar to the
1984
design, but it's most different facially and in the head. It's funny you say it's like a panther because they specifically incorporate a lot of feline features into this one.
Yeah.
And Kenpachiro Satsuma returns to play Godzilla. This suit now having been specifically tailored to his body. Unlike the last one. What a pleasure, yeah. In between these two films, by the way, incidentally, he and a few other Toho staff members went to North Korea to participate in the filming of Pugasari. You know, that's
the North Korean kaiju movie,
That's the North Korean kaiju movie directed by Shin Sang-ok.
We're going to watch all the North Korean kaijus.
Well, I've seen them all, because there's one. Yeah, directed by the kidnapped South Korean director Shin Sang-ok under the executive production of Kim Jong-il. It's not funny. It's not funny, but it's a
struggle for him.
But it's an insane story.
But at the end,
and it's
you'll need to talk about that.
And you know, it's worth talking about.
You're reading about it, aren't you?
Because I finished the book now. Yeah, a Kim Jong-il production. Sorry, very good book. He bashes the Godzilla movies, but whatever, fucking snob. It's just a shame that, you know, most Western authors and critics feel the need to, in the same breath as mentioning a Godzilla movie, mention the fact that, oh no, I don't like them, I'm just talking about them.
Yeah.
You know, but fuck you, man.
Get it.
Shut up.
That's your word for the critics of the West.
Yeah, exactly. Just stop being a bunch of fucking...
Get over yourselves.
Get over yourselves, you
have a good time.
Fuddy-duddies.
You fuddy-duddies.
Like, there's a review of the 1995 Gamera movie, Gamera Guardian of the Universe, by Siskel and Ebert. They reviewed it on the show. And Ebert gives it a good review. But it's this, like, really, like, ironically good review. Do you know what I mean? It's like he cannot bring himself to admit he enjoyed this in any other way than I enjoyed it because of how bad it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's so typical of not only Western critics but Western audiences. But I digress. Kenpachiro Satsuma, who played Godzilla in 1984 and played Pugasari in North Korea, returns to play Godzilla. But you were going to talk about Godzilla and Biollante's first meeting in the lake. Did we discuss it?
No, we didn't.
Right, go
well, basically, it's great. And basically, just that's the one fight that I do like, because that's the first big fight. That's just before, you know, we kind of get a little bogged down in a lot of the Godzilla stuff. But it's really beautifully shot. It's on this sort of cove. They're both in the ocean, in this maybe like lake or big kind of cove. Yeah. It's misty. It's very atmospheric. It's kind of spooky. You've got this Ming and Rose rising out of the water with horrible tendrils, and the best thing about it is there's spotlights just sort of swooping over them. There's a really great shot,
There's a
sequence.
deleted scene that takes place immediately after that scene, which I kind of wish they'd kept in, actually. There's a lot of deleted stuff in this movie, and a lot of it shouldn't have been kept in, but I kind of wish this one was. It's just a quiet moment, and after Biollante retreats into the sky at that moment, all the hills around Godzilla just suddenly blossom with beautiful big bright flowers.
Oh, that would have been cool.
And it's like, oh, I kind of wish that.
Yeah, that would have made...
It's a nice kind of quiet moment, and Godzilla's just kind of looking around like...
What's going on? I don't know what plants are.
What the fuck? But, yeah.
That would have been really interesting. That maybe would have made me care more about Biollante.
Yeah.
Because Biollante doesn't actually do too much. Just sort of appears, causes problems, but doesn't really do much apart from attack. I mean, the surprise of Biollante... I forgot the film was called Godzilla vs. Biollante.
Yeah, because...
I couldn't tell you what I thought Biollante was. So when the two American guys are in this base and suddenly plant tendrils come out and grab them, I was like, oh, shit!
Yeah.
Great!
It's interesting, though, because... Once Godzilla... Well, it doesn't defeat Biollante's initial form. Biollante kind of retreats into the sky. She doesn't come back until, like, near the very end of the movie. And by this point, you would be forgiven if you thought she was out the movie.
Yeah.
But what do you think of Biollante aesthetically?
I liked it. It's minging. It's horrible.
It's pretty gross.
It's pretty gross. It does just have that uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
In what I felt was a good way.
Yeah.
It looks like a rose.
Yeah.
It's got that weird minging heart beating, pulsy, gooey thing in its chest. It didn't do too much, but the tendrils are cool. Plant monsters always look really cool. When it turns into the kind of weird plant Godzilla, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good look. The sort of like bastardized,
Yeah.
the horrible version of Godzilla.
Because you can clearly see, had Biollante had a third form in this movie, it would pretty much be Plant Godzilla.
Yeah.
Or, very close to a mimic of Godzilla. But the second form of Biollante in particular, I think, is amazing to look at, and apparently it was a nightmare to operate, because it was just this huge, fucking massive prop that needed so many wire technicians to operate it, and but it's funny that you say it doesn't really do much. Like, they just sort of stand at each other and use tendrils or rays or whatever, because this is a common criticism for the films we're going into. Special effects director Koichi Kawakita made really great monster designs, I think, but a common criticism against him is that a lot of his monster fights are the monsters standing statically a distance apart, firing weapons at each other instead of
grappling and wrestling.
Yeah, instead of just getting in and down and dirty. Much like they did in the 60s and 70s movies.
Oh yeah, they were going at it.
Yeah.
When Godzilla was like bitch slapping people and
exactly.
sucker punching.
And he would slide on his tail. And kick them.
Yeah.
Whereas
he's getting old,
and
Steven.
You'll see in this, like, the fights are a lot slower. They're even just filmed and choreographed a lot slower.
Yeah, I mean,
the monsters are bigger and heavier and bulkier, so there's not a lot of physical
because they have gotten much bigger by this point. They are like huge, towering above us now.
Exactly, and to accommodate the ever-growing metropolitan landscapes of Japan.
From there we go. Let's see what else I've got. I just laughed at one of my notes. So once Biollante's dealt with for a little bit, Godzilla's rampaging. Team Rockets sent by the Major go out to fire the the acting bacteria into Godzilla. Gondo sacrifices himself firing a rocket into Godzilla's mouth. Yeah. That, again, it was a real shame to see Gondo go. Whatever we've been saying about that movie, Gondo was a joy to watch. I felt sad that he died.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like this movie. This film is held in very high esteem.
Is it right?
Within the community, and I've never really got in it to that extent. I think it's a very good movie, but it's not a favourite. But and Colonel Gondo is in the long list of sacrifices or self-sacrifices or suicides in the Godzilla series.
Proud, brave souls who deserve our thanks for their courage, willingness to do what's right. Would you have done what Gondo did?
Probably not.
No, absolutely. I'm out of there.
It's funny that in Gondo's first scene in his office, he has a model of Godzilla as he appeared in King Kong vs. Godzilla, even though that film, and technically then that Godzilla, is not canon within the world.
Maybe it's like canon in the world as a film.
Yeah, there we go, exactly. But he also has the oxygen destroyer, or like a replica of the oxygen destroyer in his office, which is just hilarious.
That is
like
amazing.
for someone who seems so disinterested in what's happening.
Maybe the oxygen destroyer was made, but like because Godzilla didn't happen, like when Saradawa was cutting about, it was just became a thing that was used widely and available. I don't know what they use it for. Maybe it's used to like cook food really quickly.
Oh my God.
So you just have it in your office where you can like fix lunch.
That's what it's like a George Foreman grill.
Yeah.
Sarazawa says, "I'm so proud of it. I put my name on
an oxygen cooker." Because Godzilla wasn't there, and they didn't even realize its application as a weapon. They just used it for cooking food. So Sarazawa had nothing to worry about.
Okay.
Stick with me, guys. We're going to do a whole nother podcast while I explain this.
Ross, you are a fan of the popular comedy series Seinfeld.
Yes, I am.
Do you want to hear a theory about how Godzilla vs. Biollante is actually an episode of Seinfeld?
I truly do. Please do. Please give me this.
Okay. This starts off with a user on Tumblr, I believe, discovered a Seinfeld poster of the main cast on sale on Amazon. Except that in the title listing was the cast and crew of Godzilla vs. Biollante. And so, obviously this theory spreads. Do Godzilla vs. Biollante and Seinfeld take place in the same universe? Are they canon with each other? I know more and more evidence presented itself. Here's a screenshot of is this Kramer?
That's Kramer
saying "son of a bitch." It's that Saradian agent again. And here's some more evidence.
That's amazing. Wayne Knight as the sort of bigger corporate guy that fanned himself. That is a great character. The big fat guy. Well,
the corporate scientist.
Yeah, the corporate scientist who's got his traditional fan and he's just constantly overheating and waving himself. But no, that's really funny.
So yeah, I'm quoting from a Tumblr post by the blog Godzilla Resurgence. Kazuki Omori originally wrote and directed Godzilla vs. Biollante as an episode of the then upcoming TV series Seinfeld. It was originally going to be released by New World Pictures as a direct sequel to the production of Godzilla 1985, but the American distribution rights were sold to HBO after Shogo Tomiyama lost a poker game with his executive friends. By the time it was going to be released in the States, Seinfeld was in under the jurisdiction of NBC. After several weeks of intense business dealings, NBC, Toho and HBO failed to come to an agreement of who controlled what assets of the film. Ultimately, Toho decided to release an edited version of the film that removed all mentions of the characters and branding of Seinfeld. The shocking news took the fandom by storm. Many of us pestered Jerry Seinfeld himself on Twitter about the events. When asked if its events were still canon within the Seinfeld universe, he replied with a single, yet earth-shattering, yes.
That's amazing.
So Godzilla vs. Biollante is canon to Seinfeld.
That's so good. I love that theory. What's the deal with Biollante? Do our listeners know that you convinced me for 3 years or some shit like that you'd met Jerry Seinfeld? You lied to me.
Yeah, for a good few years, I had Ross convinced that I'd met Jerry Seinfeld at my work, and I hadn't. And I did it for no other reason than because I could. And it was really it was a very just believable story. It wasn't like you were hanging out. It's just that you'd met him very casually through work-related kind of dealings. I'm not saying that I'm proud of this, but I'm a good liar.
You are a good liar. You also told me that Clint Eastwood was at the Stirling HMV while I was at college, and I literally skipped the class to go to Stirling to see him. And about halfway through, I phoned you for more details, to which you revealed, of course he fucking wasn't.
Your fucking Clint Eastwood is at a DVD shop in the middle of central Scotland.
I believed you.
You did.
I trusted you.
And I'm sorry for that.
You're welcome.
But we digress.
Yes, we have digressed heavily.
So yeah, Godzilla vs. Biollante is an episode of Seinfeld.
That's amazing. I love that.
Allegedly.
Oh, I can picture it. George would be with the survivors in the subway system. He would rat everyone out. He'd sell everyone out to save himself. Kramer would surreptitiously be involved in the rescue efforts. Jerry's subplot would be completely unrelated. He'd be like going out on dates. There'd be no reference to Godzilla. He just wouldn't give a shit because he's a sociopath.
No, he'd go on a date to the Godzilla Memorial Lounge.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he would. And Elaine would probably.
No, her soul's trapped inside Biollante.
Yes, yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, Elaine would be involved in like psychokinesis flower experiments. We're wrapping through this. I mean, we're very much near the end.
Godzilla versus Biollante does, in my mind,
sort of wrap up.
It very much sets a precedent for where we're going with the Godzilla series for the 1990s. Because this series only lasts until 95. But this certainly does set a precedent of what you can expect. You know, large-scale sci-fi military mobilization, shape-shifting monsters.
It's just what the world is like at that time.
Mechanical super weapons. There's a lot in this movie that will be revisited in future films.
The ending thematic element that I liked was the line from, I believe, the scientist, where the older scientist says, you know, we're done, I'm not involved in this anymore, it's time for a new generation to take over, and the younger scientist responds, well, essentially that's all well and good, but we'll more than likely make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Which, is an interesting kind of note to end it on. You know, that more often than not, we're doing the same things wrong.
Yeah.
Every time.
To me, it's kind of hard to tell where this film's coming down.
Yeah.
Like, it probably is against, you know, experimental gene splicing science.
Yeah.
But
for at least, I think ultimately it's like, don't use it for any military application, but go for it. Find out what it'll do. Have a shot. Give it a chance.
Just don't make plant monsters.
Just don't make plant monsters. No, it doesn't even say that. It's just, don't make plant monsters that'll kill people. Like, sure, go for it. Splice your dead daughter's genes into a plant. Go for it. See what happens. Just don't make a weapon out of it. You know, and they give you the daughter kind of gets this, not reuniting, but like, you know, he's redeemed a little bit. There's a vague implication of spiritual kind of going away and get to be his daughter again and that stuff. You know, you literally see her face as as Biollante dissipates into the sky.
Not sure about that.
Whatever.
If we needed that. Like, what do you think of that?
Whatever. Again, like,
it's
weird that he gets a redemption.
It literally
kind of,
looks like Biollante is
enough.
Projecting her
it doesn't look good.
her high school photo into
the sky.
It's
such a weird picture that they use, and it's just her head and shoulders, and it just sort of floats into the sky. Like, I was expecting them to do something like that, to have like her voice or to have her be clearly present. But I wasn't expecting just here's her picture floating up into the sky. Cool, she's in heaven now. We're good. I like how they just kind of pop through all the characters really quickly to wrap them up. We get the Major getting his hat and getting clearly like back involved in the military, bright career ahead of them. The ESPN girl looks up to the sky. You know,
the Saradian agent gets eviscerated by a huge electricity landmine.
He just disappears. Everyone's happy with that, and the two scientists go home to fuck.
I mean, that's pretty much what they say.
Yeah.
It's like it's a bit raunchy for her.
It is a bit raunchy. It's a bit. Got a bit hot. Got a bit hot and bothered under the collar.
And Shiragami dies.
Yeah.
Which, you know.
Shame.
Is it though?
Good riddance, mate. You're right. That once Godzilla shows up, it does become a lot more of the, okay, get the military ready, here's our super weapon, this is how we're going to get him. Yeah. We got him.
Well, Super X2, and we've barely discussed that at all.
Yeah.
Super.
Same as the last one.
Yeah. Except it's green.
Except it's green, and it's got a big mirror.
It looks like the big green Thunderbird.
It looks pretty cool. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the idea that it reflects Godzilla's beam back at him with more intensity is interesting. But they make such a big deal out of it. Oh, this fire mirror shield is heat proof.
Amazing.
It's heat proof.
And it melts.
It melts, yeah.
It's just fun.
It's heat proof, but it can't stand much.
They should wrap the buildings of Tokyo in that material.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Solved the problem of the movie. Don't make any more.
This film's a fucking piece of shit.
31 film things wrong with Godzilla. 31 cinema sins.
Oh god.
Here's 800 and see Godzilla's not real.
Well, yeah.
have a problem,
Well,
subscribe.
that's what I love about going back to Shin Godzilla. It's like a criticism levelled at Godzilla movies and monster movies a lot is, these monsters are too big to support their own weight. They would just collapse in on themselves if they ever came on land. And like a character literally says that in Shin Godzilla.
Yeah.
It will never come on. It will never come on land because of this. Then the Prime Minister, during a press conference, is told that it's come ashore.
Yeah, and he's like, oh!
I've just been proven a liar.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
great.
Great. Well, I know we will talk about Shin Godzilla for our dear listeners. Especially, maybe we can do it once we've seen it again, just fresh off the bat of that.
Probably a good idea, yeah,
We'll
actually.
save it. We'll put it back. Yeah. We'll put it in the Kaijusaurus vault. We'll get your dad on.
Oh, that'd be so good.
That would be fun. Or
pleased.
even just in the car, like. Yeah. That's anyway. Sorry, pardon our dust. Behind the scenes, pull the curtain. Pay no attention to the conversation behind the curtain.
I feel like I have criticised this film a lot, and what I like about it outweighs what I don't like about it. I think it could be so much better than it is. I feel it's not even that long a film. It's about an hour 40, hour 45,
it's like 75.
but it feels it to me.
I would say that. I really still liked it, but and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, no, after having our conversation, I realised that everything I really enjoyed was in that first 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
Sequences in the middle of the film that could be taken out just to tighten the whole thing up.
Yeah.
It could. I feel like it could do with one more edit.
Fair.
Yeah, that's where I come down to
should've-
it. But I like it.
One more edit, guys. Re-release it from 1989. Just do one more. Done. It has all these elements that I really like, and it's one of my more preferred ones. I would say I like the opening of that movie, and just most of that film is just really gung ho mad to watch.
Yeah,
and I really, really just enjoyed it. So I give a good hearty thumbs up for Godzilla vs. Biollante, and you were saying that generally this is well-received film.
Is held in very high esteem, yeah. And I like the movie. Maybe it's because I don't know. Like I don't want to disqualify my own opinion or put it down or anything. But this was one of the last Godzilla movies I saw.
Right. Okay. What was? I mean, excluding Shin Godzilla, what was the very last one? What was the final one you'd seen?
You know what? I think it actually may have been this. Because obviously there was the big 10-year gap between Final Wars and the Legendary film. But I think I even saw this after I first saw Final Wars. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah.
Possibly. And, I I do like this film.
I like the movie.
That's kind of where I draw the line. I like
fair.
it.
You like it.
If only the whole
Don't love
movie...
it.
If only the
Kiss
whole
it.
movie was as good as its first
act.
Yeah.
Fair, totally fair.
Yeah.
The agent is fun. It's fun just watching him assassinate, murder, kill. I like the movie. Maybe based on our conversations, I don't know if it would be up there in my top 5.
Yeah.
Maybe my top 10 though. I certainly would.
Yeah.
Certainly might be room for it there. I can't remember what my top 5 is though. So
That's cool. No,
you know how it goes.
it's part of our rapport. You have a dreadful memory. I have an intricately amazing memory.
Exactly, it's our thing. It's why they love us.
Yeah, exactly. Is that us?
That's us, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, up next, Kazuki Omori returns to direct in 1991 with Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
Love it.
The
Boys back.
3-headed boys are back in town.
Great. It'll be good to see them in this new, 1990?
1991.
1991.
Yeah.
Very close to me getting born.
And me.
And you.
It's closer to me.
It's true.
You were born in 93.
Don't want that information publicly available.
Anyway, so yeah, up next is Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. I want to stress again that I do like this film.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not enamoured of it. There's parts of it I am enamoured of, but it's a film of highlights that don't form a cohesive, entertaining whole
For you.
For me, yeah.
What's one thing you would rather do than watch this movie?
Watch The Return of Godzilla.
What's one thing you would rather watch this movie than do?
Go to work.
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect. That means you liked it.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed this movie. I like those two 80 films. I think the two films in the 80s were really, really strong. I think this
Yeah,
was
they're both solid.
still like a strong, solid movie to come right after that one we've seen. I like it as a little two-parter. I like this sort of tumble, like I said, into softy, hardy sci-fi, and you're saying we'll get more of that. That's kind of where we'll be at for Godzilla films for a little while. Fair, bring it. Bring on the 90s.
Well, in the 90s, we will have it brought on. Nailed it.
How many films were made in the 90s?
5.
5.
From 91, 92, 93, 94, 95.
How many in the year 2000?
6.
Really?
Yes.
I thought it was only 1.
No.
Wow. So we've got, 11 films plus Shin Godzilla?
99, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. Yes, 6. And then Legendary and Shin.
Great.
Nice. We'll be with you for a while yet.
Yes, don't turn off your radios, dear listeners. Do we have any other final thoughts, final things we need to discuss?
I want to do a shout out to Hamish Steele. Hamish has launched his own podcast, Box Not Included, which discusses. He hosts it with a friend, discusses sort of geek culture from an LGBT viewpoint.
Well, that's cool.
So it fills a nice void there in the sort of community. It's a really good show, and Hamish did our artwork for us, which I still look at all the time and I'm just enamoured of.
It's so good.
There'll be a link in the
I really want to listen to
There'll be a link in the show notes. Go check out Box Not Included. Anything else? Anything you want to share?
No.
And
just give a shout out to my mum. Thank her, she's been great.
And if you're in Scotland, which you're probably not, but if you are, make the trip up for Shin Godzilla at the Glasgow Film Theatre.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
Please say hi.
Please say hi. We'll be doing a live event in the alleyway outside the theatre. We won't. We'll do a meet and greet though. I'll sign whatever you want me to sign.
Oh my. Well, see you at G-Fest in 2014. Don Fry. I saw, Don Fry.
Yeah, Don Fry.
I saw him sign a woman's breast.
That's amazing.
I mean, I don't want to be crass here, but he didn't, slip it all out and cup the breast. He just signed her
delicate
cleavage. But I was a bit like, okay.
You were like,
this is a family-friendly convention.
I'll never be as famous as Don Fry. That's funny.
So yeah, I mean, of course it would be him.
Of course, yeah. I know him from Always Sunny.
He's in Final Wars.
Oh, cool.
Godzilla
That's
Final
cool.
Wars.
That's cool.
You know that.
Oh yeah, I did know that.
Anyway, you know that, Ross. As usual, as always, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, etc.
LinkedIn.
We're host. Stop making that joke.
We're on. What's the other one? Is it
MySpace?
Not MySpace. There's
Friendster.
a new one. Slack? No.
Bebo.
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 Find us on Bebo, MySpace, and Think.com.
I was just going to say think.com, damn it. We're hosted on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Kaijusaurus, and we're on the iTunes store, Kaijusaurus Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
And we'll see you.
Have a good one. Happy New Year. Hope your 2017 is great. I really do.
Me too.
We're going to have a good one.
And because this year we're getting Kong Skull Island and a Godzilla anime feature.
Well, that's it. Lots of stuff that I'm excited about. We're both excited about Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks.
And I was really happy with the series of unfortunate events Netflix show that came out. I'm really into that.
Well, Hamish is looking for opinions on that series for the next episode of Box Not Included.
That's cool. I'll send Hamish a message.
They're doing a series of unfortunate events themed episode.
Oh, that's good. I will definitely get in touch then. And you should too.
So, yeah, have a good 2000. Have a good 2017, and we'll see you next month for
Bye! Have a good one! Don't do anything we wouldn't do!
King Ghidorah, bye!